You're now live. Awesome. Let's try Facebook. Starting live video. Okay, I think we're on. Okay, well, this is our first time ever going live. Hi guys. I've actually honestly been putting off this whole live thing for a really long time. Sharday is with me today. She's helping me. And I told her that I always avoid that little live button. I sometimes accidentally go there and I'm like, nope, can't press that button. So my heart rate, which I have an Apple Watch, so it monitors your heart rate. And my heart rate was like through the roof, like higher than when I do kickboxing. So I was like, I don't know what's with that little button. It just really freaks me out, but we're gonna do it anyway. So we wanna do more lives this year. I'm not really sure how often we're gonna do them, but Friday afternoons work really, really well for me generally. So that's what we're thinking is maybe Friday, like around lunchtime, end of the week, yay. Maybe you're on your lunch break and you can watch, or maybe the kids are napping. So yeah, so we'll keep these pretty short, but I thought it'd be a great way to talk about, real food, natural wellness, some of the things that are happening in our lives, tips, strategies, recipes, all of that kind of stuff, and to connect with you guys. So I polled people over on Instagram this morning. By the way, if I look like I'm not looking at you, it's because you should see this setup. It is the most rigged setup ever. I mean, if my phone drops because it has like duct tape around it. So professional. We're gonna get better at this. Anyway, if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's probably because there's two phones here. We have Sharday's phone up top and then my phone on the bottom, because we're on Facebook up top and then Instagram down on the bottom. So we're gonna make this work. Just stay with us. So I asked on Instagram this morning what you guys wanted to talk about, and I gave you two choices, and that was either simplifying school lunch, because we still have 4 more months for most of us of packing school lunch. So it's like, how are we gonna find enjoyment and simplify that? Or talk about how to make your food last, how to keep it fresh for longer so that we're not wasting our ingredients and wasting our money and also wasting our time. So you guys really wanted to talk about keeping food fresh, which is awesome. I love that topic, especially because I showed you guys the inside of my fridge a couple of weeks ago, so it just connects really well. And I promise a lot of you wanted to talk about school lunch. We will talk about that. I think next live that'll be a really good one to talk about. So we will talk about that. But today I thought we, dive into the topic of how in the world do we keep our food fresh for longer, right? Because when you make the switch from a lot of processed food to real food, you find that you're buying, fresh, real ingredients. I mean, granted, there's stuff in like my pantry, like pasta or rice or beans, dry beans that can, that last a long time. But the food that you're putting in your fridge, most of that is going to go bad rather quickly unless you're strategic about it and intentional about it, and you actually have a plan for how to keep that food fresh and put it to use. Okay, so I'm gonna share the tips that I have found, the strategies that I have found that work really, really well for me, that allow me to put my ingredients to use, which then saves me money and also saves me time, because I'm not going to cook dinner at like 4 or 5 at night and then realize like half the ingredients for that meal are actually bad now, and then I gotta run to the store, and you know how that goes. I mean, please tell me, right? I'm not the only one who's ever done that. I mean, it happens, that's real life. So how do we avoid that? Well, I'm gonna share the strategies that have worked for me. And if you have some strategies that have worked for you, like add them in the comments. Also, if you have questions, go ahead and list them out. Sharday is over here on my computer, and she's going to, we're trying to, make this work. So she's gonna be looking at questions from Facebook, and then I will, I'm not actually sure how I see your questions, but we're gonna figure this out at the end, and I will try to answer your questions. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing that I recommend doing to keep your food fresh for longer, to keep it from going bad, is to create a meal plan. Now I know, like, everybody's like, oh, a meal plan, like you're always talking about a meal plan. But the reason why is because a meal plan really is important. It doesn't have to be complicated, guys. Like, I am not talking about anything complicated, like any kind of complicated little post-it notes or like system or anything like that. A meal plan is just simply like a guide that tells you how to use your ingredients. So a meal plan is going to be like that framework or that plan that says, okay, I bought these ingredients or I have these ingredients and this is how I'm planning to use them. And that's gonna make sure that you're not putting anything, nothing's going to waste, so to speak. So when it comes to a meal plan, there's really two ways to approach it. The first, if you're new to a real food lifestyle, I recommend actually gathering together some recipes that you plan to make and writing down like what ingredients you need, and then going to the store and purchasing those ingredients. And this is gonna really allow you to like build your cooking muscles so that you can get better at cooking, you can learn how to use ingredients. And then second is, if you have been at real food for a long time, this real food lifestyle, then what I do is I actually go to like the market or the grocery store, and then based on whatever is on sale or in season, I will buy those ingredients. As I'm like picking them up, I'm like, okay, peppers, cabbage. I know I could make tacos this week with that, right? Like been cooking long enough that I know how to put ingredients to use, and so I'll pick these things up, and then as soon as I get in my car or get home, I'll immediately like write down how I plan to use those ingredients. So those are two ways you can go about meal planning depending on where you're at in your lifestyle. But no matter which way you go, a meal plan is going to really help you be strategic and say, okay, I know exactly how I'm using the ingredients that are in my fridge, so that come like Friday, you're not like, wow, I bought all these ingredients and I don't even know why I bought them or how I was planning on using them. So yeah, do you guys meal plan? I'm curious. Like either give me some hearts or raise your hand if you are creating meal plans, or if you, maybe you're like stumped on the whole meal planning. If you are, that we actually have, I wrote a entire guide on how to simplify meal planning. It's called the Real Food Planning Challenge, and you can find it over on the blog. So yeah, I see people say that they're meal planning. Awesome. How do you guys meal plan? I would love to hear like how exactly you go about meal planning. Are you like, do you do it weekly? Is it every 2 weeks? Do you go to the grocery store? Yeah, very basic framework. Yeah, that's what Raising Generation Nourish said. That's how I do it too. Like, so at this point I have like a really basic framework on how I'm going to use my ingredients. It's not like anything really rigid, and you really don't need anything rigid. I think a lot of people are scared of meal planning because they think it's like on Monday they have to make this meal, and on Tuesday they have to make this meal. But that's just not the way it is. Like instead of a meal plan should give you a guide for how to use your ingredients, and then it can really be flexible with that. So you can be like, okay, like these are the meals I'm gonna make this week, and then I can be flexible on how exactly I'm gonna do that. Yeah, weekly shop sales and whatever's in season. That's a great way. Yeah. I write on every meal for the whole month and then shop a week at a time. And that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great plan to do. Plan out like a whole month and then shop for a week at a time. So that's awesome. It sounds like you guys have a meal plan strategy going. And if you don't, like I said, we have a lot of resources over on the blog, and I also have an entire guide that walks you through how to simplify and create a meal plan. Let's see, anybody else? What? A calendar, not cleanser. That's okay. I get it. Okay, so number 2, the first is meal plan. The second is prep ingredients. Now, I'm not talking about like meal prep here, but instead I'm just talking about like when you get home from the store, you get home from the market, all you need to do is just make sure that you're not just like throwing your ingredients in the fridge, but instead that you're actually being intentional about carefully taking care of those ingredients. So for the longest time, like I would buy lettuce and just leave it in, even when I shop at the market, it comes in a bag. And I would just like leave it in the bag, toss it in my fridge. And then by like Thursday, that lettuce would be rotting. And I'd be like, man, I was gonna use that lettuce and now it's, half the leaves look horrible. So instead what I found is that I'm actually intentional about prepping my ingredients, actually taking them out of the packaging. And then some things I will actually cut up in advance, like carrots and celery, I'll actually cut up in advance. Not only does this help them last longer, but I find that we're actually using them. So when they're already cut, that means that we're snacking on them, I'm putting them in the kids' lunches, and also I'll show you how I store my celery. The carrots actually, sorry, there's no more carrots left because I put the last of them in the kids' lunch today. But I've talked about this before. If you watch my stories, I love this method, but I'll store my celery all cut up in water and then just change out the water every few days. I do this with carrots as well, and I find that this keeps them, here, can you guys see that? This keeps them fresh for longer. It keeps them like super crisp, as you can see. Now I'm gonna have to eat that. It keeps it super crisp, and it, you know, keeps them fresher for longer. So lettuce, I use something called OXO containers. Hey Sade, could you open the fridge and grab one of mine now? Or OXO, sorry if I'm butchering that company's name. The containers that have the lettuce in, or I think there's kale in one of them right now. And I found that these containers really help keep my greens fresh all week. So I have kale in here. This kale is a week old now. And they have these carbon filters in that are made from coconut, which actually I don't have mine in right now because I have a replacement order coming. And I've replaced mine like every 6 months. But as you can see, it's this basket, and this really has helped keep my greens fresh versus keeping them in a bag or something. As far as other kind of vegetables and fruits, I will actually put them in the crisper drawer. And I have some reusable cloth bags that any like loose vegetables or fruits, I'll put those in, and I find that works really well. But just getting your food out of the packaging, being intentional about doing a little bit of prep with your food, especially those ingredients that you know go bad pretty fast, I find is really helpful. And we'll include a link here at the end where you can hop over to the blog, and I share my favorite storage containers and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so meal plan, prep your ingredients. Let's see, I have a little like note over here because if not, like I know these things, but I know I'm getting myself in front of a camera, I'm gonna forget them. 3 is organize. Like I'm not talking about any kind of like, I love Marie Kondo, but I'm not talking about any kind of like crazy like method that's like, you know, perfectionistic. I'm just talking about like basically making sure your fridge has some kind of organized system to it so that you can easily find stuff. Because here's the thing, it's like out of sight, out of mind. I mean, I can't be the only one, right? Who like once you put it in there and if it's all over the place and not organized, you forget about it. Same thing with your fridge and your ingredients, that if you have stuff and it's disorganized and all over the place, you're not gonna realize that you have a cucumber rotting underneath all of those stacked vegetables. So for me, I've talked about this before, but the way I like to organize my fridge, I talked about this in the fridge tour video that you can find on the blog, and that we'll link to, is that I like to put like things together. I group like things together. So like all my ready to go food prep, which I do a lot of food prep on Sunday afternoon, like generally a couple hours worth, really sets my week up for success, is that I will store all of those on the top shelf. And then all berries on another shelf. And then I will put like all of my all my fresh herbs and green onions in another spot. So it's just the idea of like grouping like things together so that we can easily know where things are at. Now, does my family go in there and like mess things up? Absolutely, it happens. That's just staying on top of things, and like in the evening when I'm cooking dinner, I'll be like, oh, I'll just kind of rearrange that and put it back. It only takes a few seconds. But if you have things organized, again, you're gonna use them because you're gonna see them, and it's not gonna be this giant mess. And also every week on Saturday when I go to the market, I'll look through my fridge. I do like an inventory of what I have. And at that time, it's a great time to, you know, kind of like make sure everything's looking clean, wipe down shelves, all of that kind of stuff. That goes more into cleaning. But okay, so number 4 is to keep your food visible. Like we said, along with keeping your food organized so that you can actually see it. It's keeping your food visible. And for me, what I like to do is keep it in clear containers. So growing up, my mom used to use like those yogurt tubs, you know, that you get and like reuse them, which is awesome. But you could never see anything. So then we would realize that there was like 3-week-old spaghetti sitting in the back. And it's, you know, if you've ever smelled 3-week-old spaghetti, it's awful. So instead, what I have found that works really well is keeping things in clear, visible containers so that you can easily see what's in there. So as you can see, like my containers are pretty clear and pretty visible, and that seems to work really, really well. Like here are my strawberries, which when we were talking about prepping your ingredients, this is how I prep my strawberries. But as you can see, all my containers are clear, visible. We can see exactly what food is in there. And it also helps with like my family. So like if Dustin gets home late and he opens up the fridge and he's like, what in the world's in there? He can see exactly what's in all of the containers and what's been prepped in advance. Okay, so let's move on. Number 5, we got 2 more. So number 5 is to do like a mid-week check. And basically on Wednesday, all I do is while I'm making dinner, I just look at like everything in my fridge, just a really quick inventory. I'm not talking about anything complicated, just like a 2-minute little inventory, open the produce drawers, and just make sure, you know, that everything looks good. If I see, let's say there's like peppers and I'm like, oh my goodness, those peppers are not keeping well, they definitely need to be used, and I wasn't planning on using them until like Saturday night, I'll just rearrange that meal plan guide that I have and I'll put them to use the next night. So just kind of like, if you're not checking on how things are doing in your fridge, then by the weekend you're going to be really surprised when you have things, you know, that have gone bad and you're planning to use them. So just, it's not that hard to just kind of like take a peek, and if you need to use something early or cut something up, yeah, do that. Okay, finally, number 6 is to know how to put your food to use at the end of the week. So granted, like every week I have leftovers. Like I don't use all of a cucumber, or I have like half of a bell pepper. Let's see what else. Sometimes I'll have like 2 carrots left, you know, or like cut up carrots, that kind of thing. So knowing some ways to put those scraps, so to speak, I mean, they're not scraps, they're good food, to use is really important. So I have like a big bag in my freezer, and I call it my broth bag. And I'll put like maybe like that extra like carrot in there in the freezer. I'll put like maybe that extra like tomato top in there, maybe that like quarter of an onion, that kind of stuff. And then I keep it in the freezer, and when I want to make broth, either vegetable broth or like chicken broth, I can dump some of those veggies in my Instant Pot or slow cooker, along with bones if I'm doing chicken broth, or, you know, just veggies for vegetable broth, and make a really good nourishing broth. Another idea is at the end of the week, if you have vegetables left over, roast them. Like just toss them all together on like a sheet pan and roast them in the oven. And right there, you've done some food prep. You have, you know, either a dinner for that night, a side, or you have something prepped for the week. If you have a juicer, I've juiced like extra apples or extra celery. You can even do that in a blender. If you have a high-speed blender, you just have to strain out the pulp. So having some, or soup. Soup's another really good one. You can make a really good soup with a ton of extra leftover vegetables. You can even do like roast some vegetables and then dump them in a pot with some broth and blend it up to make a creamy soup. So yeah, so just knowing how to use those extras so that they're not just, you know, rotting in your fridge, and that you're not using them to their fullest potential. The other thing I do is, if I find that I have a lot of leftovers, like, you know, vegetable wise or whatever, at the end of the week, then that's what I'll use to start building my plan for the next week. So if I know I have like a lot of bell peppers left over, for some reason I didn't use them, I'm like, you know what, we could definitely do tacos the next week, and I could do like some kind of like fajitas or fajita mix with those peppers. So instead of just like running to the store, running to the market and buying all this stuff, really thinking like, how can I use what's left over from the week to start building my plan for next week, and then just supplement with whatever I need. So yeah, so those are my strategies: meal plan, prep your ingredients, just kind of like, you know, getting them out of the bags and packages and putting them away carefully in your fridge, organizing, keeping your food visible. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Oh, midweek check. And then finally putting any extra ingredients at the end of the week to use, instead of letting them just like sit in your fridge and then rot. So yeah, any questions, guys, or any strategies that have really worked well for you with keeping your food fresh? I would love to hear about that. I will show you, while questions are coming in, some of my favorite storage containers, like I said, for my fridge. I really like these Pyrex 6-cup. They come in 6-cup and 3-cup. They're glass, and I find them at Target. You can find them on Amazon too, but I think they're more expensive and you have to buy them in a set. But these are great for berries, or I put a lot of prepped foods in here. And as you can see, my berries have a lined napkin on the bottom. And I wash those in like a little vinegar bath. Let's see, we already talked about this, the OXO, they're called, what are they called? Produce keepers, the OXO produce keepers. These are awesome for greens. I haven't had good success with them with other like berries or grapes. They haven't done very well for me, but any kind of greens like kale or Swiss chard or lettuce is amazing. Like I can get 2 weeks worth, I mean, it keeps my lettuce for like 2 weeks in these. It's pretty good. So let's see, what else? These snapper containers, OXO also makes containers like this. You can also find these at Target. They come in like a variety of sizes, or Amazon. This is actually the Snapware brand, but like I said, OXO makes some. And it is a plastic top. It actually snaps, if I can do it here. And this is great for, yeah, food prep or putting some veggies in, berries, carrots and celery, whatever you're gonna need. Oh, here's the 3-cup size of the Pyrex that I was talking about. I actually have some cucumbers. If you're gonna prep cucumbers in advance, I actually like taking the center seeds out. They don't get like slimy and nasty that way. And if you want to toss like that center in like a smoothie or something, so it's not going to waste, that's awesome. But I just find that if you're going to prep cucumbers in advance, like for the lunchbox or snacks, it really helps to just take a spoon and take out the center, because that's where it's going to get like all slimy and whatnot. It is Friday, so like most of our food's been used for the week. So I was like digging through my fridge trying to look for stuff to show you. We've talked about this in the past, but for fresh herbs, I like to store this. Cilantro is like week and a half, 2 weeks old now, and clearly I've been slowly using it a little bit at a time. We're definitely going to have like a big slaw this weekend with some tacos. So basically I'll just trim off the ends when I first get it, so that it's kind of like flowers. It's all fresh. Insert it in a mason jar. These ball mason jars are great. You can get them at Target. I think Amazon used to sell them, but I'm not really sure if they sell them frequently anymore. And I just put it in here, and then I will take a bag. I reuse these plastic bags for it. I know people are always like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're using plastic. But I reuse these bags for it. If you do not want to do that, you are welcome to use something like a stasher bag, which is a reusable bag. And I put it over the top and then secure this with a rubber band. And this will keep my herbs fresh for 2 weeks, sometimes longer. We actually, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that we got stuck in Canada last week when that polar vortex came through. And so my food had been sitting in my fridge longer than I thought. And when we got back, my herbs still looked amazing. And they were like 2 weeks old at that point with this method. And then finally, green onions. I do the exact same thing with green onions. I don't cut off the ends though. I just stick them in some water in a mason jar. These mason jars are awesome. I mean, seriously, you need mason jars in your life. And then I'll stick a bag over the top, put a rubber band around it. If you shop at like a place like Whole Foods, you probably get a lot of rubber bands, or I know shopping at the market, I get a lot of rubber bands. This is a great way to reuse them. And then just put it around there. And these green onions are a week and a half old. So yeah, I only need a little bit like the herbs at a time. So yeah, that's it, guys. Those are some of my strategies. Let's see some questions. People want to know, do you sell the hard copies of the meal planning guide? So I actually have one right here. We sold this on the website for a really long time. This is actually where I write down my meal plan. And even though it says like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I will look at my calendar. This is just a little side note, by the way, a little tangent. I will look at my calendar and I will think, okay, well, Monday's gonna be really busy because the kids have karate, and Wednesday, London has yoga at school. I know, she's 6 and she does yoga. She actually told me last week, she's like, Mom, you seem really stressed out. You should do some downward dog. I was like, oh no. Oh dear. So I'll actually look at my calendar, plan accordingly. But then like those aren't set in stone. I can easily rearrange what I'm making. But again, this is just like a framework, like Raising Generation Nourish said, or like a guide for how I'm going to use the ingredients in my fridge that week. But back to your question, we actually do not sell these anymore because we did these ourselves through a independent like publishing house. It was really costly for us. So we're actually looking at some ways to maybe bring down the cost, or to bring them back in a different way. So you can actually, if you want like the printables for this, the reason why we created the meal planner is because I came out with the Real Food Planning Challenge, which is a digital book, like 4 or 5 years ago. It is huge. It's like 160 pages, teach you all about a real food lifestyle, about meal planning, about shopping for food. It's an awesome guide, but so many people were like, hey, I would love the printables that are in the Real Food Planning Challenge, which there are tons of printables in an actual like meal planning book. And so because of the desire of the community for something like that, I was like, okay, awesome. So we came up with the meal planner, which is like a full year of meal plan. It's like a a day planner for meal planning. And so many people have loved that I would love to bring it back eventually, and we're working on it. Anyway, very long answer to your question. Let's see any more. I love the herbs in the mason jar tip. We use cilantro and everything. Awesome. Yeah, it really does work. I actually heard from some people after I shared my fridge tour, which we'll be sure to link to. I don't think we can link, again, we're still like figuring this whole live thing out. I don't think we can link on Instagram, but I think we can link on Facebook. So we can put that maybe in the comments.
Can we start putting all that?
Yeah. Shardae's gonna try to like put some of those in the comments so that if you wanna see the fridge tour and that kind of stuff. Awesome, yeah. I see that Shardae just did that. So if you're on Facebook, on the Live Simply Facebook page, in the comments, you can see that she is linked to the fridge tour. But after that fridge tour, a lot of people said that they absolutely loved the mason jar trick with herbs, and that their herbs were lasting like a week or 2 weeks, which is awesome, guys. Like, that's what we want. We want to be making sure that the ingredients that we're purchasing, they're lasting us so that we can put them to use, which is going to save us money and time and make this whole lifestyle so much more sustainable and doable in the long term. So how does the Ziploc help keep the herbs fresh? I'm not sure like the science behind it. I literally discovered that through just like trial and error on my own. But for some reason it doesn't, if I don't put a bag over the top, the herbs will, it's maybe the humidity in the fridge, I'm not really sure what it is, but it actually will cause the herbs to go limp, and the same with the green onions. Maybe it's because I live in Florida. I don't know. I mean, I think refrigerators should be the same everywhere, right? But putting the bag over the top just seems to help them stay fresh, and I would say crisp, that's not the word, like vibrant, versus just like limp. For some reason, if you can try it out, like test it out. But for me, if I don't put the bag over the top, then the herbs just wilt. That's the word I'm looking for, wilt, they'll wilt. So yeah. But yeah, definitely test it out. Like, all of these strategies are things that I've just learned. I mean, 10 years ago is when we watched Food Inc., which then changed the way we thought about food, which then took us from this like all processed food drive-through lifestyle to then thinking about bringing in fresh ingredients and cooking for ourselves. So 10 years of a lot of trial and error, a lot of wasted food, a lot of frustration is how I've found these tips that work really well for me. But I'm sure there's so many other ways to store things or do stuff, but this is just how I store stuff on a regular basis because, yeah, it's worked really well. Okay, guys, any other questions? I think we're gonna wrap up. How long did we? Wow, 27 minutes. I actually talked for 27 minutes. Crazy, right? Crazy, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you for answering. I've always put my herbs in a mason jar and they really didn't keep for very long. I'll be trying the bags. Definitely, yeah, the bags seem to work. Same with the green onions. There's something about putting the bags over the top and securing it with that rubber band. It works really, really, really well. Yeah, so I swear by that trick. Okay, guys, well, we'll definitely do an Instagram and Facebook Live again. I mean, I don't know if Fridays work well for you guys, but the great thing is that the replay will be available. Maybe we can, if you don't know, we have a YouTube channel. I mean, we don't post over there very often, although we have posted 3 videos just in the past 2 weeks. Dustin's had a little bit of time to be able to do some videos for me, which is not very often these days because he's been around, and so I've been putting him to work doing videos. So I will try to figure out if we can maybe take this and put it over on YouTube. Again, technology is not my thing, guys, so I'm just trying to figure this out. Also, Shardae, you want to come over here really quick? This is Shardae, who works with me a couple times a week. She also helps with Facebook. So anyway, she's over here like on the side, and she's a mom of 2 kids as well. And so we're always like testing out recipes together and figuring out tips together. So she's the one behind the camera, just FYI, on these, looking at your questions and keeping me on track. So anyway, okay guys, well, thanks for joining, and I will see you again for the next live. Bye.